I'm a fire in my labor!
Not yet.
We that dreamed. We in nightmare. We that are running. We that fail.
Nice.
Bloody beautiful!
Alright, so, first of all, a huge thanks to Jorgen for his shoutout on his community build video. I didn't expect anyone to really like this build, because it's kind of bad. But anyway, people seem to like it, so I decided let's try to make a proper build guide video about it, because not everything is detailed in the Mobalytics link. So this build is centered around Plasma Blast as the only really damaging skill I have. That was the goal of the build, to make this skill viable for both mapping and bossing. It has one of the highest attack damage in the game, around 10,000 at this point. So the damage is absolutely disgusting. It pretty much one-taps any monsters and most bosses. The problem is, well, if I shoot it, it just does this. Which is kind of underwhelming. So the first upgrade you can have is adding additional projectile. This skill says somewhere additional projectile are fired in spread, and if you add a lot more projectile, then you will have a nice spread. So one source of extra projectile is, well, from gloves. You can also have some in the passive tree, but the main one comes from additional quality from the Gemling's ascendency, right? If you add this, then your Plasma Blast has fires, well, +2 projectile at 20% quality, but because we are quality stacking, I ended up at +4. I am really sad because I am missing 1% quality to reach another projectile, but at this point it doesn't really matter. So now when I shoot my blast, I get this. So it has a lot more coverage, but still it is impossible to do mapping with that. So one thing that you can use is Bridge Lord's Amalgam. This makes some skill return to you. So it works on a couple skills. I've seen builds using, well, Frostbolt. You can maybe use it on Bow, Ice Shot, but I'm using on the Plasma Blast, and it adds 3 cooldowns on top of the Plasma Blast, which is a bit strange. But actually it's pretty nice because it means that you don't have to reload as often, so it's a bit easier on the mana. But then you get this. So now every one of those blasts comes back to you and hits behind you. So we basically double our damage and our coverage with just one gem. On top of that, I have, well, if I go over I will go over the skill a bit later, but for the basics, I use Chain from Terrain as an additional mod. This allows the blast to, well, bounce from walls and the floor sometimes to hit even more targets, because, well, the main problem with that skill is the coverage. Because Plasma Blast pierces, you cannot make them fork, you cannot make them chain, so the only solution is to get more projectile, and one of the best way is to use Tornado Shot. Because now when I shoot my blast, it's in the tornado, I get this. So basically, they bounce off the tornado in multiple directions, and because of the Breach Lord's amalgam, they all come back to me and go behind me, basically. So this allows for decent coverage of the stream, and you can just blast one unit. In order to get that many tornado, well, I get +4 due to quality again, so that's a very nice synergy with the Gemling's ascendency. So I get 5 tornado, and in order to get all 5 in one hit, I use surpassing chance to fire additional arrows. This is probably like very cheap, unique. The rule doesn't really matter. The quiver doesn't matter at all. I just went with attack speed because why not? But you can use whatever you want. So basically, by using this, I get the maximum amount of tornado in one hit. Then I found out that depending on where you are around the tornado, you get different results. So if you are like a bit behind the tornado when you shoot, you get this, which is my way of clearing. If you are inside the tornado, you get multiple like waves of damage. It lingers a bit more. And if you are behind the tornado, then it covers a lot in front of you. So that's the 3 different use of this combination that I use during mapping, depending on what I want to hit and where it is on the map. Now going over the gear, so I pushed this build quite far. So the gear is kind of expensive at this point, but I was running a way cheaper set of gear previously, and it was doing fine. Again, the damage is so high that you don't really need to go this hard on it, but I went the extra mile. So let's talk about the crossbow. For the crossbow, basically you want as much damage as possible. You don't really care about attack speed at this point, because anyway your blast has a 2-second charge time that you cannot reduce by any means. So you can only reduce, like, you know, my blast has a 2.4 second attack time, so you could reduce the 0.4, but you will need a lot of attack speed to reduce that part, so I just don't really care at this point. It's a nice addition, so you can go for attack speed, but it's not mandatory. Damage wise, those 3 mods will give you the highest damage, but you could go with a high fizz based crossbow and it's just fine. Level of all projectile is why not. The leech is useless, and actually the spirit preservation efficiency on desecration is actually useful, because I run a lot of spirit based skills, and well, my body armor is already taken, my amulet has a bit of spirit, but I can't go very high on spirit, so I need the spirit preservation efficiency to slot all the skills I have, and I will go over them a bit later. Um, this is again not absolutely mandatory. You could just remove a couple skills or a couple of support gems, but I needed that to squeeze as much power as I could. And then the next important piece is the low wave, just because we are quality stacking. So this gives +5. It can roll up to +7. I have seen some low wave that have different ranges. Sadly, this is one I made, and I got only the +5. You can pretty much use any combination of ring effect on this as you want. I went for the onslaught because it's more movement speed, and we need it. Spirit preservation efficiency again, not mandatory, but it's a nice quality of life. And some chaos rays because, as you will see, we need as much resistances as possible because we are basically face tanking everything. But I will go over that in the skill tree section. Then I have a mage blood that gives me a lot of evasion, flat evasion, speed and resistances. You could use rare belt, but then you would need to find a way to fix your resistances because this build, my version, is using a lot of uniques, so I had to fix my resistances somehow. This helmet gives us a lot of armor, so if I remove it, see, 57, 56, and then I go to 77, 64. So this is just purely for defensive value. You also get a bit more accuracy, which can be useful because you are shooting, most of the time you're shooting monster at range, so yeah, it's a bit more accuracy, why not? For the boots, this is absolutely not mandatory. You lose quite a lot of movement speed, but if you use the Rune Mastered version of Trample Toad, they come with a 5% movement speed implicit, on top of the already 15% movement speed from the unique. Basically I use them because the overkill damage is nice for, again, coverage during mapping. So sometimes you hit a mob and then the entire pack just explodes because you are doing so much overkill damage that they explode. So it's pretty nice, I like them. Again, not mandatory, but it's nice. Ring is just damage, attribute and resistances. You need as much life regeneration as possible because we are using Berserk for extra rage effect. If you choose not to run Berserk for maybe the cost of spirit or any other reason, then you don't need a life regen. You can go whatever you want, more resistances. Attributes are pretty nice because we need a lot. Well, we need a lot of attributes and we don't have a lot of space to get them. Because, well, crossbows are both strengths and dex, but I also use intelligence-based skills, so the balance is a bit hard. So I need to have as much attribute as I can from the rings. This is the amulet that you can craft pretty easily. It's a bit expensive, but there is no RNG in crafting this. You just have to chaos spam a lot. I went with, again, quality of skills because I tried to reach as high as possible for the extra proj. Sadly, when I sanctified it, it didn't roll into +6, so I could have got my extra projectile, but whatever. It's good enough. This allocates, well, this gives you Eternal Rage for free. Gloves. So those are gloves I crafted by accident, but they turn out to be insanely good. So in gloves you just want damage, resistances, you can go for attributes, you can go for actual defense. I went with marksman modifier just to get the surpassing chance to fire an additional projectile, because I wanted to fire as much lasers as possible. It's not mandatory again. And yeah, that covers again, well, flask charge, mine is absolutely terrible. I should change it at some point. Mana flask, I went with Liangas because I'm lazy and this is one less button to press. And the charms are a bit strange. We will see in the skill tree section that actually we don't need a stun resist charm. So I went with freeze immunity because, well, obvious reason. And then I went with ignite and poison immunity because we have not a lot of HP and shield since we're evasion and armor stacking. So we get absolutely destroyed by dots. So fire dots or chaos dot is really high in this league, especially the ignite. Like if you go into abyss, you will feel the ignite is pretty high. If you fight the pinnacle from Ritual the Bodak, his dot damage is absolutely disgusting. So I went with a bit of immunity for quality of life. For the skills, first of all, I am using Gem Studded from the Ascendancy, so you want to have all three bonuses by balancing your support gems. The most important one is the last one, a movement skill penalty reduction, because we are constantly moving and charging our blast, so we need to be able to move as quickly as possible. So you do that by balancing all three attributes in your support gems. So some of the support gems are just for that reason, like this random bleed on my crossbow shots. Virtuous Barrier, well, it gives us the modes, and I went a bit high on the dexterity mode to get more defenses. You have a couple free open slots for skills, so you can add more, maybe intelligence for life regen and mana regen if you need that. Eternal Rage comes from the amulet, giving me passive rage generation. And then the main skills are Plasma Blast and Tornado Shot. So Plasma Blast does an absurd amount of damage. Right now it is 1.4 million damage per use if I'm not moving. If I start moving, I get to 1.6 million. And because we have Burgeon giving us 40% more damage while channeling, if I start charging the shot, I get to 2.3 million damage per beam. So anytime one of those beams touches any monster, the monster explodes. And nothing survives this. Then yes, I have Ricochet for chance to chain from terrain, more coverage, more damage, and Rakiata because most of my damage is elemental. And the second one is Tornado Shot, Overabundance for extra limit. The limit is the number of tornado, and we want as many tornadoes as possible to spread our Plasma Blast. Concentrated Area, I am not even sure this is really useful, but I thought that having all the tornadoes in the same spot allowed me to use them all more easily. Instead, if they spread a bit too much, it gets a bit harder to shoot all of them. Then Life Tap and Efficiency. Because this skill is level 23, it uses quite a lot of mana. So instead I switched it to Life, and since we are stacking a bit of Life regen, it is fine. And then the rest is buffs. So the additional quality from Gemling gives all the heralds an increased damage based on the element, right? So Herald of Thunder gives us increased lightning damage, Herald of Ice gives me cold damage, and Herald of Ash gives us fire damage. And it is substantial, like 50% increased damage. It's a lot. So I wanted to stack all three of them. The gems are absolutely useless. Area of Effect, I tried to boost their damage, but I mean, I'm dealing 2 million damage per shot, so adding like 16,000, doesn't do much. I added blind because why not? You can slot whatever you want. Then I'm using Ghost Dance. This one is very nice because well, we have a lot of evasion, so getting those little ghosts gives me a lot of shield recharge when I get hit, and I get hit a lot, as we will see in the skill tree section. And the quality is reservation efficiency, so this makes that this skill is very cheap, but also support gems inside socketed in this skill will also benefit from the reduction. So this is where I put all my cost multiplier and spirit costed support gems. You can always cut those or reduce the level if you don't have enough spirit or enough spirit reservation efficiency. So I have cooldown recovery for obvious reason to get the little shrouds a bit more often. Vitality 2 to regenerate HP to balance the berserk that you can see here. I could go a bit more regen on the tree, but I decided to free up more skill points for damage and utility, so I have to use a vitality in my skill. Also, clarity gives us mana regen, because reloading your crossbow costs a lot of mana, and well, I don't have mana on my gear, so I have to find a way to sustain the skill. Berserk gives us 80% increased rage effect, and the additional quality from Gemling gives us even more maximum rage, so that's how I get to 48 rage, which rage buffs your attack damage, so I have basically 48% more damage from the rage, and then it's increased by 80%. So that's like, what, 80% more damage from Berserk. And then the two last are just dexterity skills to get more modes. So that's all the skills. So last part will be covering the skill tree. Let's start with the ascendency. So the first 4 points are obviously to get the advanced thaumaturgy, giving us additional effects from quality. This is the base of the entire build. It gives so much damage and more projectile for the plasma blast, more rage. It is mandatory. Then I went for gem studded because you get all 3 bonuses and all 3 are very useful for this build. Hits against you have no critical damage bonus is amazing since we are face tanking everything. Skills have 30% less cost is also nice because, as I said before, the reload is quite expensive since I have a level 36 plasma blast. And also the less movement penalty is really good quality of life because we are constantly charging our plasma blast. And the last one is just +2 level of skills with a dexterity requirement, just because it's, well, +2 level to plasma blast, even more damage. Why not? Okay, first I have this anointed on my amulet. Extra quality, extra attributes, classic. So this skill tree is kind of a mess. It uses a lot of defensive nodes because, well, we don't really care a lot about damage. But one thing that is really important is that I have a from nothing diamond centered around Bulwark, which is this skill over there. And this allows me to take Unwavering stance. And no one uses this, and for good reason. It's bad. It's really bad. But since we are using a channeling skill that is really slow, getting stunned was a problem. You could fix it by stacking a lot of stun threshold on your gear. But I went the big route of just picking this, and now I can't get stunned, so I can charge my shot. In the middle of packs, I will never get interrupted. The issue is that, well, I cannot sprint, which is fine to be honest, but I cannot dodge roll, which, well, this is a problem. This means that I need to be able to face tank absolutely everything, and that I get body blocked a lot. This is a huge quality of life issue. Body blocking is annoying, so some content gets really like not very pleasant to go through. Like Delirium is a problem because you get constantly swarmed by hordes of enemy, and well, you get pushed and body blocked every time. It's kind of annoying, but at least I can blast, I guess. The rest is a lot of evasion and armor. Even more here. I have this on the weapon set 1, which is my crossbow weapon set. This gives me a lot of extra spirit, and that's pretty nice. I had then movement speed, penalty reduction while using skill is also nice because we are constantly well, walking forward and trying to blast, so that's pretty nice. You also get bonuses while moving, so that's why my damage was better when I was walking. My evasion rating also goes up when I'm moving. Then here I have a bunch of, this is like more damage, attack speed, evasion, and this is a good place to slot a time loss jewel. It is not that impactful. The attack speed again is not really useful. Increased damage is nice, but at this point we don't need more damage, so this jewel is actually not very important. You can put whatever you want. Then we have extra movement speed, skill speed, deflection, defenses. This is also a very substantial damage boost. It's the same effect as the extra quality on the Herald, giving you increased elemental damage when you have the corresponding heralds, and we have all 3 of them, so that's 40% increased damage for all 3 elements. Again, movement speed penalty. I have a Megalomaniac using multi-shot and enhanced barrier. So multi-shot gives me another chance to fire additional projectile against. The more projectile, the better it feels. And enhanced barrier is okay, giving me a bit more energy shield, and actually reducing my max HP is nice because it means that the Berserk doesn't drain my HP as fast. It's a small difference, but we take those. Yeah, then I have a +3 level of Plasma Blast skill as a jewel, because why not? And the Heart of the well, extra damage. I went for movement speed and life regen. Life regen is actually pretty nice, and you could maybe even quality up if you need, just damage and utility. And I think that's it for jewels. I also get more life regen on weapon set 1 from this skill. If you need more, you have a lot of small nodes that you can take. Those are actually pretty good. And then this random 20% increased damage. Why not? And yeah, I think that's it for this skill tree. I also have weapon set points allocated for like utility. This is life regen, this is extra chance to chain from terrain, this is a lot of damage with two-handed weapons. But these you can pick whatever you want. You could go more defenses, like you could go here you have some armor and deflection. You have a lot of deflection nodes here, even more around there. You could even maybe go here somehow. You could go this route to get more defenses. And weapon set 2 is for the bow skill, so I just have additional arrow, probably some skill speed. Here I have skill effect duration as well to get the tornadoes to last a bit longer. I have some attack speed, but that's just utility stuff. They don't do much for the build. So yeah, I think that's it for the skill tree. Okay, so that was the entirety of the build. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I also have the Mobalytics build guide online with maybe a bit more details there, I don't know. So overall this build is pretty funny to me because we're using this Plasma Blast as a skill and no one uses that for mapping. Is it good? No. Does it work? Yes, but it absolutely destroys any bosses, so it's actually pretty nice for like boss farming, pinnacle content. Mapping can be a bit clunky depending on the maps as well. If you have big open maps it's great, but if you go into like small corridors it can be a bit clunky, especially with the body blocking issue. Again, my gear is kind of expensive at this point. It's probably around 1000 divine, but you don't need all that to make it work. I was using a pretty cheap setup before and it was just doing fine, but I wanted to make it as enjoyable as possible. So yeah, I think that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and have a nice rest of your day, I guess. Goodbye.